Hello, viewers, and welcome to the SAIPAR Podcast. My names are Denny Sakala, and I'll be your host today, filling in for Maria Kasoma. And for today's topic, we'll be discussing the Constitutional Amendment number 13 of 2025 due to popular demand from our previous episode. So today we're joined by Dr. O'Brien Kaaba, a renowned lecturer and author and associate director here at the Southern Africa Institute for Policy and Research. Welcome, Dr. Kaaba.
Thanks very much, Denny. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Okay, so on today's topic, we'll be talking about the Constitutional Amendment number 13 of 2025. So to get into the meat of it, I would like to draw your attention to the First Amendment, which is a mixed member proportion representation. What exactly does it entail?
Okay, thanks. That's a very important question. So before the amendment, that is the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Act number 13 of 2025, we had only one way of electing our members of parliament and councillors. So that was, we elected them using the simple majority system and elected them on the basis of geographical territories we call constituencies. So each constituency retained one member of parliament. So the amendment proposes having two categories of members of parliament. So we'll continue to have a category of members of parliament elected as previously they were elected. And then we'll have a new category of members of parliament who will be elected using the proportional representation system. And because we have two methods of electing these MPs, that is where the term mixed member system derives from. Thank you.
Okay, so you've mentioned that there'll be the new introduced
proportional representation system.
Yes, thank you. So what exactly does it mean? How different will it be from the previous method?
Okay, thanks very much. So we'll have 40 members of parliament who will be elected on the basis of proportional representation. So these will not stand in any geographical territory or constituents. They will be given seats on the basis of the performance of the party in the general election. And the measurement for the performance of the party is tied, in this case, to the performance of the party at presidential election level. So you'll be given seats proportional to how you performed as a party at presidential level. So there'll be 40 seats, so 20 for women, 15 for youth, and 5 for persons with disabilities. So if, for example, in relation to women's seats, your presidential candidate gets 50% of the votes, so ideally that would entail that you get 50% of the 20 reserved seats for women. So that basically means you'd get 10 of those seats. So that is how it would work. But in reality, I think we'll be dealing with fractions and incomplete numbers. So it basically means there's now need for subordinate law to provide a more detailed formula of how the distribution of seats will work in practice, taking into account possible fractions in computing those figures. Yes.
Okay, very interesting. So I'd like to draw attention to the next change in the new act, which is the increase in the number of parliamentary seats. It's one of the topics of most discussion. So what exactly does it entail?
Yeah, thanks very much. So as you see, once you read the amendment, the number of the size of parliament has grown significantly. So before the amendment, we only had 156 geographical seats or constituencies. That has been increased to 226. So that's a significant increase. And on top of that, we'll have 40 MPs coming through proportional representation system. It basically means the budget for running the legislature will have to go up as well. But beyond that, I think what is of more concern from a governance perspective is in relation to constituencies, how the Electoral Commission of Zambia is going to carry out the delimitation process. I think what is important is that the process should be transparent, it should be fair, and uh, if it is carried that way, then that minimizes suspicion. But if the process becomes arbitrary and lacking in transparency, then that might increase the levels of suspicion, especially that we're heading into an election. And that is where probably fears about gerrymandering would arise from. As we are aware, the Electoral Commission of Zambia has indicated that they will conduct a new delimitation exercise in view of the constitutional amendment. So we wait and see how the process will be carried out.
Okay, so in your view, do you believe the increase in the number of parliamentary seats is something that is a good thing, and is it something that can actually be actualized in a meaningful way?
Okay, so the government, in arguing for enlarging parliament, I think had indicated that they needed to do this to ensure that they make the legislature more inclusive, and also to ensure that there's equality or equity in the distribution of resources such as CDF. So from that perspective, the views on the surface appear laudable. But I think we need to do further interrogation of whether that is something that is going to bear fruit or not. And we need to look at it from a more critical angle. In my view, I think simply increasing the numbers is not sufficient. I think we need to look at the whole governance framework, because I think that is where the issues are in relation to delivering goods to the people. So simply increasing numbers in the legislature does not sufficiently respond to the need to correct the constitutional challenges we have had as a country. So increasing the numbers might respond to the issue of equality, in that every vote must count and there should be equal representation of candidates. So from that perspective, I think it could be laudable, but then it will depend on how the delimitation will be carried out. So there's a case which is often cited comparing Kanyama constituency, which has in excess of 100,000 voters, and then a small constituency in Central Province, which has 11,000 voters. So you can see that there's a huge disparity, and basically it tells you that there's inequity in the representation of citizens. So that needs to be corrected. But then that alone doesn't mean that we have cured all the constitutional problems we've had in relation to the quality of electoral democracies.
Okay, so would you say it's a good stride or a major stride towards achieving that aspect?
And to me, I think it will really depend on the delimitation exercise. Yes. Yeah. So if the delimitation exercise cures some of those defects, then it could be a good stride. Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Kara, with regards the jump or the increase in number from 156 to 200, is it really logical or possible for the Parliament House to accommodate that huge increment in number of MPs?
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm not sure of the sitting capacity of that house, but I think my recollection is that at independence, I think we had only 75 MPs. So I have been increasing the numbers without attending to the infrastructure. But I'm not sure of the changes that are needed to accommodate the numbers. What I've heard from government, from Minister of Infrastructure, Mr. Milupi, is an indication that they have been doing an assessment to see how they accommodate the new members of parliament. So we wait and see. Just to note that the changes do not take effect now. I think it will be in relation to the next parliament after the general election. So that's when we'll see those numbers. So for now, we have to wait and see to see what will happen once the report, whether the infrastructure will be attended to or not.
Because it will be interesting to see the huge number of MPs be seated in such a small hall.
Yeah, sure.
And also, what's your view with regards to the upcoming elections and ECZ's capacity to actually implement and draw out these increased number of MPs positions?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think the first thing I noticed that the timeline is pretty tight. We have a general election in August this year, and by law, the National Assembly should dissolve 90 days before. So basically, the campaigns are hitting up around May. So we only have a few months for subordinate laws that implement constitutional changes to be passed. So that puts the Electoral Commission in a difficult angle. But the consolation probably is that the Electoral Commission has, at least from a logistical perspective, experience in running general elections. They have been consistent, at least logistically, in running general elections for many years. I think as a country we have been consistent in holding our elections. So the challenge to me is more specific to the change around the proportional representation system. The other changes look straightforward and probably easy to implement, but it's the PR angle I think that should take a lot of change in mindset and also in logistics. It basically means we have to adjust the legal framework, probably the Electoral Process Act, and political parties also have to adjust. It's not clear as to what adjustments will be brought in at this stage. Would there be a requirement that political parties should have a democratic process of choosing candidates for their PR system? So if that would be the case, then there's a possibility that once that law is passed, then political parties will be caught off guard. So would need to pass these laws as soon as possible, or amendments as soon as possible, so that political parties and other stakeholders have adequate notice and prepare for what is required of them as we implement the changes to the constitution.
Okay, great. So I would like to draw attention to another interesting change that this new law has implemented, and that's the cancellation of nomination. With the upcoming elections, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are curious to exactly what it entails.
Thank you. So the amendment here is under Article 52(6). So prior to the amendment, the law was that if a candidate dies, withdraws, or is disqualified, having filed nominations, then the election was cancelled in relation to the concerned election, and fresh nominations are called for, and the date of the election is adjusted. So that had potential to disrupt the election, and we have had several examples of that, all the way from 2016 when the 2016 amendment was passed, which had that clause. So to cure that fear of disrupting the election and also the accompanying costs of printing or reprinting ballots and logistical costs for all those, there were proposals which have been effected now in the amendment that you only cancel the election when it is in relation to death, because there probably the person had no choice. But in relation to resignation or disqualification, the amendment entails that the election will proceed. So if you are a party and your candidate resigns or is disqualified, then hard luck, it basically means the election will proceed. So yeah, so on the one hand, we have cured one mischief, but then there's potential that there could be a genuine case where someone is or decides not to proceed with the election or is disqualified, and in such a situation, the concerned party might be disadvantaged. But then it's difficult sometimes to find neutral ground in such a situation. So for now, the amendment says the election proceeds, and that is the position of the law after the amendment. Yes.
Okay. So it seems to be a good change, isn't it?
It cures the noted defects, but it has potential for other consequences that might also affect the election. So, yeah, it's good in curing one defect, but there's a possibility that it could have also, in the long term, unintended consequences. But for now, I think it cures the potential disruption caused by people who might want to disrupt the election by simply withdrawing.
Okay. All right. So I would like to draw your attention to the last two major aspects of the new act. That is the introduction of the members of parliament into the council, and also the dissolution of parliament and the council. So just briefly explain to us what these changes mean.
Okay, thanks. In relation to the dissolution of parliament, the law prior to the amendment was that the parliament dissolved 90 days before the general election. So then parliament ceases to function. There was a bit of ambiguity in relation to the status of ministers, but in 2016, the Constitutional Court ruled that once Parliament is dissolved, then ministers also go. Then, when the government came up with this proposal for amending the Constitution, there was a clause in Bill 7 which indicated that Parliament will only dissolve a day before the general election. And the argument was that the MPs needed to save their 5-year mandate. So there seems to have been a compromise in the amendment, the Constitution of Zambia Act number 13, where Parliament now dissolves 90 days before the general election. But then it says the MPs will be deemed to have served for 5 years. So the implication of that, in my view, is that they will get their dues up to their 5-year threshold. So even if they are not sitting in Parliament the last 3 days, basically means they'll be entitled to get their benefits for the full 5 years. That's my interpretation of the amendment.
Okay. And with regards to the introducing MPs into the council?
Okay, thanks. So the country has moved from two extremes in relation to this change. So we have experimented before having MPs in the council, and then we changed and removed them from the council. And also the same debate has been going on around CDF and having MPs in the CDF committee. And we have experimented even there, having them and not having them. So the arguments are general that when the first one, those opposed, indicate that MPs are members of the central government and they have specific functions as legislators, that is, legislating and providing oversight to at central government level. And then local governments are there to represent the people at at subnational level, and are supposed to be responsive to the people who elected them and implement the programs in line with the preferences of the people. From that angle, it is argued that there should be clear demarcation in terms of functions of the two tiers of government. So central government should be separate from local government. Others who support having MPs indicate that MPs have an interest in being elected, and because of that strong incentive, then they're going to push for more development in their constituencies. So having them sit in the council gives them an incentive because they want performance legitimacy. So they'll push for implementation of projects, and this is stronger, especially around CDF. In several constituencies, reports indicate that the utilization of CDF hasn't been at its best. So we would need MPs in there to push for implementation. So those are the two extreme positions. So the amendment basically resolves the debate in favor of those who want to have MPs in the council. So yeah, that is what the amendment did. Yes.
Okay. So you spoke of the two extremes.
Mhm.
What's your position? I'd like to know your position.
My position actually is a bit beyond the amendment.
Okay.
I support a more devolved system of government where the subnational level is fully accountable to the people, and we need to have a proper devolution system where subnational governments are able to raise resources, and there's clear indication of the framework for intergovernmental interaction between subnational and local, and then a proper framework for sharing of resources between the national government and subnational level. So my position actually is that we need something more than what we see in the amendment. Yes.
Okay. So, with regards to all the amendments we've spoken about, do you have any recommendations with regards to what should be changed to make it better? Looking at all the shortfalls that we've discussed, like any recommendations that you can highlight?
Yeah, okay. So my concern for now is mainly at implementing the PR system and that we're running out of time. So I think there are three things that need to be attended to. So the first thing is that when you look at the way the PR provisions are crafted in the amendment, in relation to Parliament, the figures for those coming to the legislature through the PR system is indicated, that is 40. But at local government level, there's no indication. So it basically means we need that to be indicated in subordinate law. So how many ward councillors, for example, come to the council via the PR route? So that is not indicated. That needs to be indicated. The second one is that when you look at the threshold to be used in computing figures distributing seats for PR. The indication that we use the election for the president, the election results for presidential candidates. But then, since 2016, we have a majoritarian system for electing a president. So that is more than 50%. Implicitly, that basically means that we always have potential for two elections in any cycle of elections. So we could have an election that simply runs on one round and then the election is resolved. Uh, Alternatively, we could have an election which is not resolved first round and then we have a runoff election. So there's need for clarity as to which election will be used in computing MPs going to parliament through the PR system. So is it the runoff election or is it the first round? So that needs to be clear. In my view, I think the rational thing would be to pin it to the first round vote, because I think that is what is assured throughout. And then the third, as already indicated, I think we need a formula for determining how exactly the parties will share the seats. So is it going to be on the basis of percentages? Is it going to be quoted? And then if there are remainders after sharing those seats and a few seats remain, then how do you deal with the remainders? So that needs to be in the formula. Yeah.
I have a question with regards to whether you think the new law actually achieves the aspect of inclusiveness of women and youths in government. Does it achieve its goal or does it not? What's your view?
Thanks very much. So the thing which it achieves is that the youths are already assured even before election that they'll have 15 seats. Women are already assured that they'll have 20, and persons with disabilities are assured that they'll have 5 seats. But beyond that, inclusiveness will have to be determined on overall how many women, how many youths as a percentage of the whole house will be brought on board. So 40 out of 226 looks relatively small to me. So what is needed, I think, is something beyond the amendment. There should be other mechanisms to foster more inclusion of women, more inclusion of persons with disabilities and youths in the House. So the amendment alone, I think, is not sufficient. I think we need more, and probably thinking of how we could further tinker with the Constitution in the future to restructure the whole angle of representation. So I think we need to interrogate the issue further. So probably the major thing the amendment accomplishes is that it is possible to provide for quotas in the Constitution. I think that is, from my perspective, that is the greatest accomplishment. It shows that it is possible where there's political will to uh, introduce quotas in the Constitution to make the Constitution more inclusive. But then we shouldn't end there. I think we should relook at the figures and see how we could improve those numbers and make the legislation more inclusive beyond the figures which are currently provided for.
Okay. So, does the law provide in an eventuality that the 40 threshold that has been allocated is not met? Does it provide to what happens then?
There's no way it won't be met because you are tied to the vote is tied to the outcome of the general election. So the only way it wouldn't be met is if there's no general election. Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, yes, as long as you have the general election and the presidential candidates, then you are going to use the outcome of the general election to mirror that. But probably the only catch is that the clause indicating the distribution ties that to political parties that have fielded presidential candidates. So, but at the same time, the Constitution allows independent candidates to run for presidents. So, in the unlikely event that the leading candidates are all independent candidates, then probably that could raise complications. Yes. So, from that angle, probably yes, you're right. But ordinarily, as long as you have presidential candidates that represent political parties, then you are assured that the issue will be resolved.
So, Dr. Kawa, so I would like your opinion with regards to our constitution and how through the past years we've seen it constantly being amended. What's your view with regards to what it would take to make a long-lasting constitution which doesn't need to be constantly amended?
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, we haven't resolved our constitutional order. So even the current amendment, in my view, doesn't resolve the past challenges and even current constitutional challenges. So we still have, as a national project, constitutional reform. So in my view, past reforms have been focused more on liberalizing politics. They haven't gone to diagnose the real problem about our constitution. In my view, I think the problem is structural, the way power is designed in the constitution. And even when we have reformed in the past, I think that we haven't reformed the state itself. So the current state as we know it is a colonial project, and we have simply been attending to some of the consequences of that design, but we haven't thought through the design of the state itself to make it responsive to the current needs and our democratic aspirations of the country. So we need to be more imaginative and think of how we could remap the state. To do that, I think we need a constitution making process that brings all key stakeholders together. There should be some form of consensus among all the key stakeholders, especially the elite, because I think those are the leaders. And it should be designed in such a manner that agreement is inevitable and no one is interested in sabotaging the process. Because if you design the process in such a way that others feel marginalized or they feel they are losing out, then they have an incentive to sabotage the process. So I think we need a process that is sort of consensus driven, has clear timelines, has clear indication of the values to underlie the constitution, has or entrusts the process, I think, to uh, experts who know what they are doing, and they are completely committed to designing a process that is in the interest of the country. And we would also need a process, I think, that is insulated from a short-term political interest. So it should be based on uh, uh, some law, I think, uh, and above all, I think we need an inbuilt mechanism for handling disputes that arise from within the constitution making processes.
Okay. So, with regards to the fact that most of these constitutional amendments usually occur like close to election period, do you think this is an aspect that affects them, or it's just a coincidence? What's your view with regards to that?
Okay, so when the constitutional changes are close to an election, I think there are perceptions that the process could be tailored to trying to benefit a ruling party. But then uh, around the world, I think the constitutions are often tied to to a political process. So sometimes it might be difficult to completely say the process should not be so close to an election, and our history speaks to that. I think the 2016 amendment was an election year. The 1990-91 change was also we were heading into an election. So basically the point is that there's no rule written in stone, and from practical experience, I think there's nothing that says you shouldn't make major reforms in an electoral year. But I think what matters is that the changes should not be designed to benefit a particular political party or to gain unfair advantage in an election. So the process should be broader than just looking at short-term partisan interests in an election. Yes.
Okay. Do you have any last contribution or words?
Yeah, just to thank you for hosting me and inviting me to be part of your podcast. Thanks very much. And to indicate to me that although the amendment has passed, I think the project of reforming our constitutional order as a country remains, and would need a constitution that looks at our problems without escaping any of our challenges. And when you look at the debate in the country, there's extreme polarization on many issues, and we need to attend to all those concerns. And of great concern to me, I think, is the issue of ethnic polarization. Every time we have had opportunities in the past, we have missed opportunities to design a constitution that is inclusive, that leaves no one behind, where every Zambian will feel they have a stake in the life of the country. And it is our responsibility as citizens to continue pushing government and mobilizing for more fundamental reforms in order to design a constitution that fits our aspirations for our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you for that informative and interesting talk, Dr. Kaaba.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, viewers, for joining us today. It's been a very informative and interesting conversation. I hope it answered all the burning questions with regards to what this new law entails. This was a SAIPAR Podcast, and my name is Demi Sakala, as we were shaping ideas and informing change. Bye.